Over the past 48 years, Old Town Bike Shop has served Colorado Springs community not just through bike sales and service, but as a business leader when it comes to environmental stewardship and giving back to community. Coming up next on Pedal the Springs, we're talking with owner John Crandall. Welcome and roll on in to Pedal the Springs podcast, where we banter about all things biking in Colorado Springs and the Pikes Peak region. I'm your host, Tori Giffen, and what I don't know about cycling in the Springs, my friends do. And here are today's guests. We have owner of Old Town Bike Shop, John Crandall. Hi, John.
Hi, Tori.
We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
It is such a pleasure.
Thanks for doing this.
And we have one of his bike mechanics. We have Joe Vuchetich. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, how's it going, Tori?
It's going great. Well, I've been wanting to have you on the show for a long time because really when I moved to the Springs 20 years ago and started getting involved in the cycling community, I just remember like the bike to work breakfast and the big downtown breakfast. But, you know, you were everywhere, you know, giving prizes and goodies to everybody and supporting every community endeavor. And so I appreciate everything that you've done and that you continue to do, not just as a bike shop serving our community, but really to help make Colorado Springs a better place to live for small business owners and all of us.
Thanks, Tori. Yeah, it's been a wonderful road, and a lot of things weren't planned, particularly the people I have met. The wide breadth of people is just stunning. I actually know few people in business that have had the opportunity I had as far as this range of people and the stories. And a little story, when we met at the Y.
Oh, it was the downtown Y, yes.
And you claimed you were going to buy the Buffalo Lodge. And I left and I said, brave woman.
I know.
And I thought that ever since. Thank you for taking that step. That was
Thank you.
very special.
I love it. Well, I mean, it was really, I was able to build my business dreams because of what a great cycling community this was and is, and the great bike shops in the area and the relationships that I had in the cycling world here in Colorado Springs helped spawn my business dreams. Like Colorado Springs is a great place to live and bike, but I watched other business owners who inspired me and made me believe that I could make, you know, my bicycle related, you know, Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort dreams come true, because this was a great community for cyclists. And a lot of that is due to our community of great bike shops. And you are located right down in downtown Colorado Springs. Tell me about your location and how you picked it and where you're at now. Because it wasn't the same when you first started.
No, it was not. Actually, we started in Old Colorado City, which is where the Old Town name came from. And we were in 800 square feet of a rental space, which we totally restored in an old building. Actually, literally 2 inches of dirt on the floor. Was rent-free for 2 years because the neighborhood was 40% vacancy rate.
Wow.
2 city employees from regional development turned that area around, along with Wes Colburn, who was the financial wizard, and I mean truly wizard, that helped make that happen. Don Bates, who ran Don Bates Insurance, also a very wise man.
Don Bates, right there.
And a mentor for me. And then in 1980, I moved to 2526 West Colorado, about a 1,400 square foot building. And then, let's see, so that was 80. So in 86, I bought 2409 West Colorado next to Don's office.
Wow.
And Don, and as far as financing that, Wes ran the Old Colorado City Development Company, of which Don was on the board. To show you how things have changed, you were mentioning how things changed.
Yes.
We had an hour and 45-minute lunch. The logical thing was for the development company to be the mortgage holder, but Don was on the board. We all thought, some people might question that. Don became the mortgage holder. So after an hour and 45-minute lunch, a handshake, Don's lawyer drew up a one-page document. We're done. And that shows what happens when there's trust.
Yes.
It was beautiful.
And relationships.
Yeah. And so then after that, I figured when Criterion Bike Shop moved out of downtown, I needed to be downtown. And so Don has been this mentor. And so I'm dreading going to Don saying, I really have to move. Because he's my insurance man, he's my mentor, he's my neighbor, mortgage holder. So I'm dreading the visit. So I go into Don, I say, Don, I really need to move downtown. And Don said, well, John, what building are you looking at? And I said, 426 South Tejon. And Don said, oh, he said, I know that building. I own the building across the street from it. I own the parking lot on the north side of it. You need to do this. So I get another bout of tremendous good luck from my mentor encouraging me to leave. I also want to put in a comment on your comment about the Colorado Springs bike shops.
Yes.
I bought my first adult bike from Chris Kahn at Criterium in 1973, and we became friends. And then when I decided to leave my engineering job, Chris encouraged me to come to his shop, learn the trade, and open up a shop in competition with him. And that generosity is unheard of in the business world.
Right.
And if you talk to any bike reps in Colorado, they've never seen anything like this community as far as the shops not considering other shops enemies.
Right.
And Chris is really the cause of that. I tried to keep it going, but he really initiated that. And I was obviously grateful, received the benefits, and we've been good friends ever since.
I think that is what I loved about Colorado Springs when I moved here 20 years ago is, not only was there like practically a park on every corner, every neighborhood has a bike shop, and it makes for a great biking community. And when we can all support and serve each other, we are better and stronger together. So I do want to talk about the place on Tejon. So if you're coming to Colorado Springs and you're looking for a great local shop to come buy a bike or biking equipment, or get service on your bike from. You guys are located on Tejon at what address?
At 426.
At 426. And so what used to be this little building on Tejon in a very, kind of quiet neighborhood is now surrounded by high-rise luxury apartments and restaurants and so much activity. Tell me about your storefront now.
Well, actually, my building hasn't changed. But so it looks kind of the same, but the surroundings have changed dramatically, as you say, which means there's a lot more traffic. Some of the new buildings, the apartment buildings, have brought some business, and I didn't expect a lot, but there's been some. I was also lucky, again, going to throw another name out, Darcy Nicholson built the apartment building next door to me. It's 4 inches away. I'd met Darcy before. When she started that plan, as soon as the plans were drawn, she came over to visit, show me what was planned, because that was my test ride parking lot.
Right.
And so I saw the plans before any shovel had turned the earth. And I said, this is an old and delicate building. I don't even know if there's a footer under this wall. So she had her crew dig down in 4 places. The bricks went down maybe 2 to 3 feet, what a 1909 footer might have been. My point is, though, I could not have had a better neighbor building a building 4 inches away. And we became really good friends at that moment. So I've been, again, on the good side of how luck can happen.
That's amazing. So when I come to your shop, you have some parking up front, just right on the main Tejon Street. There's also some parking back in the back alley there. But can you tell me a little bit, and maybe you can talk to me more about this, Joe, but I am interested how you found this cool Old Town bike shop and how you came to work there. So maybe walk me through that experience.
Yeah, so I went to college here in town. My family's from the Midwest. And I was sticking around, and sort of towards the end of college, I had
Give a shout out. What's your school?
Colorado College.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
And I started volunteering at the pedal station, another incredible institution in this town. They're a bike shop, they're a nonprofit, and they sell used bike parts. And so that's how I learned to wrench, even though I've been biking since forever. And I did that for the last few months of college, for another month afterwards. And one of the guys there was like, so how are the applications to bike shops going? I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not doing that. He's like, well, why not? And so really I applied to Old Town and I applied to Ted's, because those are the two shops I've been to in town. I'd always kind of been around downtown, and got a job. I had to call a couple times. I feel like that's the Old Town way sometimes. But I mean, I can't be more glad that I made that decision, of all towns, to choose to be working for John and meet the people that John knows, and the community we have, the history of customers. The customers have been around. I mean, it's pretty cool. And I guess I've enjoyed my time here, and so I'm sticking around for the time being.
So what do you love about the shop? Not even just working there, but what do you love about the shop?
I think it's who I work with, especially immediately. I mean, Ted is an institution of the service department at Old Town. He's been there for 15 years, and he's taught me so much about bicycling and how to work on bikes and the history of the quirky nuances of bikes. And he has an encyclopedia of knowledge of 20-year-old suspension components and stuff. It's outrageous sometimes what you can walk up to him with. So I love that. I love its place downtown. And I think that the big part of that is the variety of people that we have come in. You know, I work on a $12,000 road bike, and then someone comes in who literally has $12 in his pocket and can't pay for the $18 for a tube change. And I really appreciate that John allows me to make the discretion and do the service, free of charge, make them just pay for the tube, something like that. And that allows me to feel that I am doing something for this community. Like it's John, but it trickles down to everyone who works there. Like it is kind of an impassioned group of people. And so that's kind of what it is.
So what's your team like?
I guess I'll speak mostly to do with the people I work immediately with, like the service department. I feel really lucky to have people who care enough to want to make it better. I know that, it's not always the way it goes in a workplace environment, that you get people who want to contribute to improving. I mean, it's just, the making things run smoother, making the service better, doing more service, being on top of things so we don't, lose track of stuff, like things like that. And so Ted's great. He's been around for, almost as long as I've been alive at Old Town, honestly. But then Peter is just an incredible engineering student. And so he provides all these bits of knowledge about material sciences and how suspension really works and that sort of thing. And then Brian is just maybe one of the coolest people I know. He's a musician. He's an excellent mechanic, an excellent cyclist. And so we all just bring it all together, a variety of ages and experiences. And I guess I can't go without mentioning Brian Gravestock. I mean, his
bike clinic.
You guys need to talk to him if you can get him to talk to you. Yes. I don't know. That's kind of hard, but
he will talk.
His knowledge is incredible. Like, he needs to write a book, and he's got all these outrageously strong opinions. And you never know what he's going to say when he walks up. Like, either he's going to ask you something about, what he saw on MSNBC, or he's going to ask you if you watched the Avalanche's game last night. But yeah, his knowledge of bikes is also just incredible. So all that put together in one workplace environment is just pretty cool.
Well, I want to make sure I talk to you later about where you like to ride, but I do want to know, John, you were an engineer and you started a bike shop. Like, how is your bike shop different, or what were the things that were important to you, the important components? You have a beautiful big showroom area, real nice tall ceilings. You have kind of a little bit more of a smaller service area in back. Yeah, it's not huge. It's probably just what you guys need back there. But tell me a little bit about how you built your business. Like, what were the key components for you?
The initial philosophy was actually key, and I'll go through this, and then, because Joe is a part of this, and I have never liked high-pressure salespeople. So part of the initial plan was to not have people on commission or on piecework. And so that affects your profitability a little bit to do that, but you have a chance to be yourself. And it's really been an important part. I've always been in an old brick building, and just aesthetically, it's a comfort zone for me. Mm-hmm. And I want to mention, just continue a little bit on what Joe said. Not having people on piecework. So as a mechanic, that means if somebody comes in with a mechanical problem, you could have kind of a checklist and more like automobile dealers do.
Yeah.
But we don't do that at all. And that means it can be a problem that takes 15 minutes to fix, and it might take 15 minutes of discussion to get to that point. And so that's been, other places do that, but I don't know anybody does it with quite the staff that I have. And Joe's patience with customers. He mentioned, the really expensive bike and the bike that needs almost no work, that somebody doesn't have a lot of money, and if we have to give them a little lower than regular rate, we do that. But his patience with people astounded me from the start, and so I have to give credit to it. The whole crew is good, and also he can speak Spanish. Well, in this community, it'd be nice if we all did. Well, I don't. Nobody else really does. And he'll say he doesn't speak it well, but I don't know that he has ever failed for a good two-way communication on it. So, that adds a whole element to the shop that wasn't there before he got there.
Well, thanks,
Well,
John.
that Colorado College is kind of known for attracting and putting out some pretty amazing people into this community, right?
Yes, and Ted Sloan, the service manager, is also a Colorado College graduate. Yeah. And Ted, amazing as Joe's already given appropriate credit, and I just second it. Ted is an amazing person, incredibly bright, along with being competent. And, as you get older, you're not quite as quick. And the amount of little quips that I have missed is legion. It's huge. But anyway.
So tell me about what you guys carry at the store now, Joe. Can you tell me a little bit more about or who can talk to me about the products that you carry?
Yeah. Well, we have, I guess in general, an incredibly wide variety of bicycles. We sell commuter bikes, cruiser bikes, high-end mountain bikes, electronic bikes of every variety. But specifically the brands we sell, our primary large brands are Trek and Giant, and we've been doing them for over a decade each. We sell Pivot as our high-end mountain bike brand, and they make incredibly beautiful mountain bikes. Transition is another mountain bike brand that we carry. We sell Surly. They do steel bikes primarily and kind of gravel-oriented, touring-oriented. We definitely like to represent bike packing, especially as it doesn't seem like many shops in this town do. We have a lot of knowledge on that front. I guess this list is starting to get long. We sell Momentum and Electra, which are Giant and Trek sub-brands.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything? I think that's all the brands. Yeah, that's all our brands. So that we want to cover everything. And I think that goes with John's philosophy of promoting bicycles is we want every customer who is interested in transport on two wheels to be able to buy a bicycle, to find something that fits them, that's their price range, that sort of thing. But it definitely makes it hard for our brains keeping track of all the different models that we keep on the floor. Yeah.
And then you have every kind of extra from clothing. I have an amazing I have that Colorado Mountain Bear jersey that you sold a while back. But you have every kind of accessory and jersey. You have great clothing selection always. Anything else is there anything else interesting that you have there that we might not expect?
Yeah, well, maybe something more interesting and exciting, especially for this town. We just picked up Oveja Negra, which is a bikepacking specific bike brand, and they're just neat. They're local to Salida. They make cool brands. They get in the habit of reusing materials to make quirky colored bags just to pick up their scraps, and so that's certainly neat. But you're right that we have pretty much everything else. Any part you need, any bottle cage, lock, lights, anything, we have it, and we can get it if we don't.
Art.
Yeah, I want to know.
They have art, yeah.
They have art.
That's true.
Too.
We do have art. Yeah,
Yes,
John
thank
can
you,
say more to
Dave.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, John's the one who knows the folks who make it. It's usually people who know the shop, friends of the shop, that sort of thing. Gives it the local and just more personal nature.
What's hanging in there right now?
Actually, a variety of little things. Plus, also at our Christmas table, Jennifer Hansen makes some incredibly clever
Ceramic.
things. Yeah, and they're really well done. They're affordable. They're unique as far as things that I've seen.
Like Christmas ornaments, bowls, all of those kind of things. She does amazing work incorporating bicycles into her clay designs.
Right.
Yes.
Also, I want to add a little more on where Joe was headed. The complexity of the role of mechanic now is unbelievable. The bikes have become, again, you mentioned how long we've been in business. Well, for the first 20 years, things gradually moved. Then mountain bikes came along, and then a whole new leap of design, but still basically mechanically the same device. And then with suspension and hydraulic brakes and hydraulic suspension, things moved one major level up as far as complexity and the skills needed by mechanics and the skills needed by salespeople to know what to recommend. And so then we now have added to that electronics. So the industry, not just us, is overcoming the fact that in the mind of the public, bicycles are simple and toys. So trying to get them to understand that there are sometimes significant charges, and unlike some of the automotive industry where that is so sophisticated that you can get a computer solution often, look and read, they have to innovate frequently within general parameters. And so it's not the model I started with.
No, I'm sure not. And you know what? I'm actually always very aware when I'm out on my bike after I've had it serviced that my life is in the hands of the mechanic and counting that everything is going to work right. I mean, everybody should know their ABCs. Everybody should check their air and their brakes, and their tire pressure and everything like that before they go out and ride. But there's certain things you can't know, and you do need to know that your bike's in good hands. Like, I won't even say I was on a trip recently where I had a friend put my bike back together after I had traveled with it. And I was on day 2 of a very long bike tour, and my tire was super wobbly. I discovered on day 2, well, they put my bike back together 2 days ago. I'd been riding on this tire that was on this wheel that was never tightened back down. You need to know you have a good mechanic, and you need to check it out yourself too. But
it's an underappreciated category
Yes.
of people in our culture.
Yeah.
Because it's changed so rapidly.
So I do want to know, Joe, what did you go to school for?
Economics.
Economics.
Yeah, I mean, it's a liberal arts school, so I did a whole lot else, but yeah, that's my degree.
Okay, so what did you think you wanted to do with your life when you went to school, and how has that changed? Because you said that a friend was like, when you were working at the pedal station and kids on bikes, he said, "Oh, where's your bike applications? Why aren't you considering this?" What were you looking at before that changed? Or
I'm trying to think of a way to not make that a very long answer.
okay,
I guess the short answer is I didn't know. I was fortunate enough to be able to leave college with little to no debt. And so I did have whatever I wanted to do ahead of me. And that's sort of it. I know that's not the best answer. I graduated in COVID. And so that messed up everything to do with what I cared about, what I thought I could do, everything. All my other peers were in weird situations. So it was a bit of, I was just looking for something to spend my time doing. And I've always loved bicycles. It's not like it's weird that I got into bikes, but I've always, the volunteering just led to having a job, and I just needed a job, and I knew I'd enjoy it. And I think I got very lucky that I found a place that I really enjoy. Although I also consider it a little bit unlucky because first job out of college and I really enjoy it this much. Now everything after this is going to suck. But yeah, I've been spoiled.
So what are your aspirations now?
What are my aspirations? Jeez, that's also a hard question to answer.
You don't have to know yet.
Maybe,
you're still young.
Maybe what I'll say, this is one that maybe the more people I tell, the more likely it is that I'm actually going to try. I would love to run for city council in this town. I think that there's a couple things. I don't mean to take over the platform, but
No, that's amazing.
Trash collection in this town needs to change.
Yeah.
It is a mess. it ruins our roads. I don't want 5 trash trucks going down my street every day. So
Right.
I'd love to change that. So
Yep.
I guess that's the aspiration I have for now.
That's interesting. I came from Phoenix, where trash collection was the company that serviced your community.
Yeah.
That was it. You
Yeah.
know, you
And
could-
that makes sense. And we could do that here in town. Like there's 7 different trash
We had all the
companies.
different recycle bins.
just, like, split it
different
up.
recycle bins for different things and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but I like that. City council would be very interested
boy.
in talking to you.
We'll see. And who's gonna elect me anyway? I don't know.
But I believe you speak into existence the things that you want to do, and
Yes.
you aim for you aim for what you want to hit. You don't aim lower than that,
And see
you
what
aim
happens.
for what you want to hit, and you never know what could happen, right?
Yeah.
So I want to come back to you, John. You have something to say.
I just want to add that, yeah, the thought of Joe on city council, having attended council meetings for as long as I've run the business, we've had some incredible council members and some not so incredible council members. And to have somebody like this with this intelligence and this life perspective on our council would be quite amazing.
Well, we're
I
all
think.
just waiting for it to be an actual livable wage that recognizes and attracts talent, to
Yeah.
that, and that it's not, practically volunteering.
Yeah.
It should
Joe,
be
we don't want you to have to wait till you're 75.
I know, until I'm independently wealthy and
until you're independently
a
wealthy
real
to
estate
be able to-
mogul. Yeah. Hey.
Right. It's a labor of love at this point to be on our city council, I think.
I also want to add, when we talked about all the amazing people that have come into the shop, the whole generation of people from 20 to 40 in particular that I have met in recent years, their versatility in being able to do a variety of jobs and do them well astounds me. When I was young, basically everybody was to head on a career path, more or less, and I headed on one for a while and then decided not to do that. But I delight in seeing the freedom of thought and mind and just the ability to tackle something a little different and do it well. It's different from my generation.
I do want to talk about. There's so much I want to talk to you about between the fact that of what you do to contribute and give back to community. So I want to get into that. You pick where you want to go next. But the other thing I love is that when I'm out riding with my bike group on a Saturday morning, I can always see you riding into work. And I kind of want to know more about where your love, and we can even talk about Joe's too, but where your love for cycling came and how you went from an engineer to becoming a bike shop owner, and what kind of, are you a tour rider? Is that why you're one of the, premier shops for, getting, bike packing supplies and things like that? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the short story is I grew up a motorcycle person. Strong environmental interest at the same time. So then, as life progresses, and then buying my first adult bike from Criterium when I was 30, I'm going, Then this engineering job, I became somewhat critical of what top management was doing. My boss was part of top management, but a friend, so I knew too much. And so then I decided, and it compromised myself. I was quality control supervisor. I had 10 inspectors, and I had presented some plans to them, and things changed afterwards. And so my integrity was compromised in my mind. So that part of what encouraged me to head down the bike direction. So then the whole environmental...
And being your own boss, right?
Yeah. Although I
that.
always had good bosses. I never had bad bosses, so I was really lucky there. So then the environmental thing, okay, we'll take the 1973 oil embargo. And so I'm going, not understanding climate change by then, but I'm understanding this is an unbelievably valuable resource that we are squandering. So the whole energy conservation thing, that was another little addition to that. So then understanding the efficiency of bicycles. So basically, bicycle commuting was what got me going. I've never done a long tour. When mountain bikes came out, I was busy enough doing other things. I've never done a lot of mountain bike riding. In fact, I did ride to work today.
You're a bike commuter.
We have a beautiful Colorado Springs day, which we are blessed with
Yes,
so often.
in January. I love it.
Yeah,
You never know.
So it has really been that path that brought me to starting the shop and continuing after.
So you are different than a lot of bike shops in your environmental stewardship, and also how much you give back to community. So I know you know this from school, Joe, that the whole idea of your social impact and how you're giving back, we used to not talk about what we used to give and do. Like that was all, your quiet difference that you made and stuff. And these days, everybody wants to know how you give back and what you do. And I think it's as important a part of a story as anything is your social impact and how you're doing that. So if he won't tell me, can you tell me a little bit more about the different things that you're involved in the community that make a difference? I think we talked about like more than 15 different nonprofits that you support, right. Not just the trail building. You also do a lot that has social impact in our community, or maybe helps with other government issues as well.
Yeah, and when you come down to it, because of this community having such a low property tax rate, mm-hmm. it's always been underfunded in my mind. So therefore, what has happened is we have an incredible number of really good nonprofits mm-hmm. doing social work in this community. So then, as I mentioned earlier, all the people that come through my door, so then I get to know some of these people. So we'll drop a couple names, like Christy Milligan, Beth Rolstad, and just a dozen that I could easily pick out, mm-hmm. who have these amazing organizations that now, because of the shop, I know all about, and I know the people. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, it just was kind of a natural to do that. And we also do about the same thing at home on Hoboken. None of those are huge amounts.
Right.
But it lets them know that there is some support, some people that will support them, and it's very rich to have had that. And I've had the luck and good timing of, property getting more valuable. So because of the luck of timing, not genius, not working harder than anybody else, just timing, I have to realize how lucky I've been to be here at the time that I was.
That's amazing. Well, you mentioned Beth Rolstad, and she's one of my main biking buddies. It's funny. Some people have called this Smolorado because you mentioned Darcy Mickelson, and Beth Rolstad used to be part of a Free Moms Walking Club that I led for 6 years in this community when my kids were young. And so when they were young mothers, before they went back out into the workforce, we all became friends through motherhood. And so it's been amazing to watch Darcy go on to build these amazing properties that, not only enhance our downtown, but also address issues of affordable housing, to Beth Rolstad, who has gone on to be the director of Homeward Pikes Peak and helping. I mean, if you care about our trails, you need to care about the homeless situation. I mean, if you care about people, you need to care about the homeless situation, but especially if you care about the trails, you need to understand that we have a crisis of, some homeless, and anybody that's doing any efforts to help create affordable housing like Beth is through Homeward Pikes Peak as well is important to being a good steward in this community, just as much as the trail building crews like Medicine Wheel, Trail Advocates, or Rocky Mountain Field Institute, or Trails and Open Space Coalition. You need to care about, the homeless issue as well. So what are some of the other organizations that you support?
Certainly some related. Trails to Open Space Coalition has been one. Often the Bike to Work Day did little things. And this, actually I'm going to mention it because it was fun, and you can decide whether to use it. So I'm helping the Y and Bike to Work Day. It was probably 5-6 years ago. And it's a funny little story. So we're in Acacia Park, and up come 3 policemen on bicycles, riding up to support it, and the chief, who's in a T-shirt, and really casual, and who I'd met before and found very easy to talk to. And so I went to one of the men in uniform, and I said, well, I see you're here since the chief's casual. You're to protect the chief. And he said, no, we're here to protect you from the chief. But what that showed was the attitude and respect within that department, that they could say that.
Yes.
That this whole thing could take place. And
Yes.
again, it was bicycle-based at that moment.
Yes.
So it was...
I love Bike to Work Day and Bike to Work Breakfast in this community. It brings out people, for the corporate challenges. It brings out everybody. It used to be one big celebration, downtown at the, Pioneers Museum. Now we actually have it more friendly to local businesses and communities. So we're spread out. So there's local hubs and breakfast that you can get on Bike to Work Breakfast Day. But I do remember your involvement for many years with that. You also, like you said, it's not just about money. A lot of times it's just awareness. And so you've also hosted environmental groups in your shop where they can talk about what their efforts are. So, because you could give somebody money, but the awareness piece and bringing in other people. If you tell other people about this group, now you've got 5 supporters versus one person, and you do that too.
Yeah, and also part of that, when I had these sessions of these 15 nonprofits all at once, and limiting them to 2 minutes so we could get through the evening, because of course they all overran it, but we cut them off pretty good.
So that's right. It was an annual environmental
there
forum
was
where
about,
you give 15 different nonprofits 2 minutes to speak.
Yeah, and we did it several years. And so part of that was just to let them know who else was doing similar work so they could team up with other nonprofits and be helping each other. There've been so much. It's been really good there. Catamount Institute, again, a favorite of mine for 20 years now, educating young children in the ways of nature. We're so distant from nature now, and particularly high-rise buildings. This is just a bias of mine, but if I see really modern steel and glass tall buildings, I get a little pit in my stomach. And I do because I think some of those people will never touch the earth. Mm-hmm. And it bothers me. We all need to be touching the earth. So a lot of it's been
like your first bike shop.
Yeah.
Literally on the ground.
Yeah. And there was a beautiful oak floor under there.
So where are you going next? So I remember, so I'll be like, where are you? I can't find you online, John. Like, where's your social media? This is before you were like, I'm not really a computer guy, but that's changing. So you're getting into the whole social online presence. What are you doing there now?
I'm letting young people tell me what to do, period. Because I'm not that person, never have been. And
you hired your weaknesses, right?
And we need that. That's what this current culture is. I can't tell you the number of times, Joe, when you come over and, he'll push 3 buttons that I've been spending an hour on, and that issue's done. And as far as actually developing the social media, a couple of people have been working on that. Actually had a talk with a young woman who does that for a living, and we'll have another conversation with her to see if she can keep nudging us down that path.
So what kind of things are you guys doing, or how do you let people know about you these days? You have the storefront, and it's now in an even busier part of town than ever, but it has changed, from the telephone book and looking up your local bike shop, or even searching on the web. There's so much competition these days with online, and things that you can buy online. I think it's, you need to be supporting your local bike shop. I mean, if you're out there, who's going to service that bike? That you shouldn't just buy your bike local, but you need to be attached to a shop to have somebody to help take care of that for you. But so how are you getting the word out there these days, or how are you competing with all the online dealers?
It's certainly social media is the best place. It is the truth of the matter that people do a lot of their shopping online, do a lot of their, just going on maps to find where to do anything is online. And so that's the best way to bring the new customers in. And, that's probably one of our biggest points that we need to improve upon as well. I like, as much as John says that he has some young people who know what they're doing, we all kind of struggle. I feel like it's kind of a thing amongst cyclists and proper cyclists that you are a little bit hesitant to go with what everyone else does. And so there's not that many social media fluent people at Old Town Bike Shop, I will admit. But sort of like community group rides are good, and we love to get that sort of thing going. That's good. But then like word of mouth is a lot. We really rely upon our actual performance as salespeople and service people to get more people to come in, and that's been our best.
Well, one of the things I try and do at the lodge is we have a weekly Saturday ride year-round out of the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort, and so I have my tour to bike shops that we do, and we will just spend a month every Saturday going to go visit all the different local bike shops and stuff, and we try and incorporate them into our yearly rides, but we're very intentional about it a couple times a year, just making sure that we take our riders, because we'll get like 40-plus riders in the summer coming out to join us, and a lot of them are new to town and they don't have a bike shop yet, and so I think it's really important to just introduce them and to the local bike shop. So if the local clubs aren't spreading the love, I think it's better that you take people around, they find the bike shop that fits them, because every different bike shop in town has a different kind of culture about it, or a different kind of expertise, to it. And there's got to be the bike shop for you. What else? What else should be part of this story and this podcast?
Do you guys ever talk about e-bikes? E-mountain bikes specifically? I know that's of contention in this town. So.
I know. Advocacy. I got to figure out how I can get, because I ride a road bike. I have a mountain bike. I love riding I don't want to ride in traffic, but I love tour riding myself. And we do regular road rides, and we have great trails in this town. I do love being off-road. We have so many amazing places to go ride, in the mountains of the gravel here. But a few years ago, I got a friend that owned an e-bike company, and she had these big, nice bike tricks, fat tire e-bikes that we could go up and go around Gold Camp and everything. And being able to, I would never be able to make it out through like tunnel. I shouldn't say never. It just wouldn't appeal to me often to go out to Tunnel 4 and Tunnel 5 on Gold Camp Road. It's thick gravel. It's a big ride. I mean, you have to have a whole, day to go out and make it out that way. Where on a fat tire mountain bike, they let motorcycles go out there. So, I feel fine riding my fat tire e-bike. But that is an amazing, epic experience. You're still getting a workout on an e-bike. I do think it's the wave, and I'm a big e-bike advocate because I have a son battling brain cancer who at one point had ridden up Pikes Peak on a unicycle, and now he doesn't have his balance, and the ability to do big rides on his regular bike, but he rides the fat tire e-bike, and it's been able to help him stay a bicyclist. And, like people call him a cheater when we go out on these rides, because like, you don't know people's story, but we're not in competition against each other. It is the way to go. My friend, one of my managers at the hotel, I took her on her first e-bike ride ever this year. I've been taking all my staff out on e-bike rides, even if they're not bicyclists. I want to expose them, to our trails, help them get to know the area so they can tell people about it more. It's like, don't get me started on e-bikes. You don't even know the can of worms that you open up.
Yeah.
But I take turns taking my staff out on e-bike rides and stuff. And I took one of my managers out on an e-bike ride. She was so scared, and like just worried that it was going to be like a motorcycle or more than she could handle, this mountain e-biking. And I took her up through Gold Camp, and we went down North Cheyenne Canyon, and we had coffee at the amazing little coffee shop down there and everything.
Yeah.
And the next week she went out and bought an e-bike. And
Nice.
and then now with the e-bike credit, she's gone out and helped other staff, get e-bikes. And it's good for the environment. She's not driving her car to work anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great if that becomes, in fact, I sold my H3 this year, my H3 Hummer, military grade tank. I sold that this year in exchange for 3 fat tire e-bikes.
Perfect.
And so now I just drive. I do drive my van around a lot. I have the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort team van, but I didn't replace my car. So the idea is that I'm going to become a better bike commuter to my meetings and different things as well. So I'm on that wave. What else were you going to say?
That's my whole philosophy. There's as a cyclist and among cyclists, and there's obviously a discrepancy amongst e-mountain bikes and e-normal bikes. I own an e-bike. I commute on it. I sold my car and used my pretty much what insurance would have cost to pay for my e-bike, and I love it. If it replaces a car ride, I think it is 100% worth it. My whole philosophy is pretty much just anti-car, so that works. There's always the weird contention of e-mountain bikes. Like that is a very big gray area.
I know.
And I think I'll stand by my original statement of as long as it replaces car rides, if people don't shuttle as often, if they don't drive their car to the top of the trail and instead they ride their e-bike to the top of the trail, I love that idea. Like that is a huge benefit to the roads and the everything up in the mountains. I know I represent a bike shop, so I am saying this with, a degree of understanding and like I have personal feelings, but bike etiquette is always a problem on trails. We have multi-use trails here in town, and there's always the issue of hikers and bikers not respecting each other. And I do recognize that e-mountain bikes add friction more than there already is. And so that's my only hesitation, but I think overall e-bikes are a huge benefit to transportation in this country. They very much fill in the gap for people who can't afford a car, but don't have a bus line or don't have a train line near their house. And so all of those benefits, your experience is we've heard so many stories of people who get an e-bike, and they just drive way less and they save so much money and have so much less anxiety. And in this town, especially, like this town doesn't seem like a bike friendly town, but there's so many quiet streets and so many bike paths you can get everywhere. So
I think there's a place for them, even e-mountain bike, because, for me, I came to it, really through a relationship with a friend, but mainly through, my son doing the e-bike and being able to do that. But, while there's roads that are closed off to e-bikes and trails that are closed off to e-bikes, and I believe that they should not be allowed on all trails, 100%.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But there are trails that, I would say high drive. In my opinion, that is a forest that is a Forest Service road. It's super wide. It's super steep. You cannot abuse that trail and speed going in there. I have done it not understanding that e-bikes weren't allowed on there. And I can't get over 4-6 miles an hour going up those hills up high drive. So I'm not being a nuisance to anybody other than the person going 2 to 4 miles an hour on their mountain bike, that I might pass that just looks at me with a snarl. But I believe that if you are disabled, that they will let you ride the e-bike if you need it for an adaptation. You can go on some of those trails with the e-bike, like high drive or whatever. Yeah. So my son could be okay to ride on it, but I wouldn't be okay riding with him on an e-bike on there. That's my understanding of it. I'd like to see that change because I just think Gold Camp Road, out to Tunnel 5, motorbikes can go
Yeah.
out. There's certain places that it should be allowed,
Yeah.
and encouraged, because it's a great time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're still biking, and we're not competing. It's just there's bad
no
people.
competition.
There's
Exactly.
there are always those bad people that just go zooming along the Midland Trail on an e-bike, riding recklessly, at 24 miles an hour, and
Yeah.
and that's violation of the speed limit.
Yeah.
I had a kind of interesting wake-up call. Again, my interest in them was transportation, energy conservation, and getting people out of their cars. Well, I wasn't sure if we should carry e-mountain bikes. This is probably 4 years ago now, when they first started really coming out. And a man came in, I'm guessing in his 50s, who wanted a hardtail e-mountain bike. And we had great conversation, and he wanted it because he only had one lung. It allowed him to do everything he used to do. And so that was really, I think, the first e-mountain bike we sold. And again, that was a perfect wake-up call, meaning, okay, look at your biases, see what's behind them, see what's practical. And he was really good at forcing me into taking a look then at the whole range of all the things the two of you just been discussing.
I don't think you should lose your man or woman card if you ride an e-bike. It's just,
Yeah.
So what's next? What's next? I mean, John, you are still out there bike commuting, riding. I've never gone to the shop and not found you there. Never.
6 days a week or something.
Well, no, there are times.
Okay.
I'm missing an hour and a half right in the middle of
All the people coming in right now. Yeah.
They'll be like, "Where's John?
Honestly, though, yeah, like it's daily. People coming in being like, "Where's John?
Where's John?"
I was like, I don't know, in his office or something.
know.
You know where to look. Like-
We had Tony from Ted's Bike Shop on the show recently, and he's taking a little step back and going out and traveling and being around family and doing more of that now. What's next for you? Are you going to keep up 6 days a week?
It's a good question. Yeah. And I don't know. And I'm still trying to figure out the post-COVID model. And part of the post-COVID model is the manufacturers, right after COVID, there was no inventory. Then the manufacturers vastly overproduced. They literally blew it badly. The shops did to some degree, but the manufacturers really did it. So now what's happened in the last 12 to 18 months is we have too much product. They have way too much product. So a bunch of the bikes that we have purchased, they then lowered the retail price on. So the margins went away. So the whole profitability of the whole bike industry has been affected by that. So part of this is trying to figure out a model that will go on and will be sustained when some of these things hopefully get into a better balance. They're heading there, but slowly. And we were mentioning too this comment about social media and how people behave. So this has happened a few times. One time in particular I was very aware of. Both Trek and Giant, our two biggest volume bike dealers and two of the biggest in the country, started selling online a few years ago. Giant did it perfectly. Perfectly meaning total access, customer can totally buy online, and we lose about 5% on the deal out of pre-COVID, what was a 30% margin, meaning very good. Well, we've had a couple cases where people had ordered bikes online that lived within a mile of the shop. We had the bike on the floor. It had been there for a couple of months, the exact bike they ordered online, meaning, so then, of course, there's a little risk for them to get the right size. Now, there are guidelines, but we've had a couple of cases, a guy missed 2 size levels ordering online. So it's just, this is just an implication of social media, online ordering that's interesting, complicated. But I was just astounded that this person just didn't even
cut your retailers, right?
Yeah, and there's some of that. And again, Giant of all companies has handled that better than anybody. But there's even been, we've had a few of their bikes we've had to sell at wholesale, a few at less than we paid for them, because of this whole massive overproduction. So actually, I don't have a really nice pat answer about where to go, other than to try to get things back onto a little more level field, in one that makes some sense.
What do you see for Old Town in the future as far as like longevity? Like
A good question.
Old Town.
Well, since I'm old and obviously can't be there forever, have some irons in the fire. I don't know how productive they will be, but have some very good people to talk to. Another facet of that also is trying to, and it's been challenging, try to find a way to get historic preservation on the building.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want the building to go away. It's beautiful.
Right. It is.
And
a
there's so
beautiful
much
building.
pressure. There have already been developers in that would, I'm sure, tear it down in an instant and put up something of the glass and steel that I mentioned that I get a pit in my stomach for. So that's another facet that I don't have a good answer for, but I'm trying to address it.
You're going to make sure it's the right time and the right thing to preserve.
Trying to, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you can find somebody out there that can help you figure out the historical preservation, because it is a beautiful building. If you haven't seen it when you're coming downtown, you want to look for the old high wheel out there. And if I understand, one last story, I don't even know, Dave, how far we're going over here. But one last story, if I understand correctly, that high wheel was Mike's bike, right?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
This is before he and Paul started producing them. About the time they started making high wheelers. And I had purchased a high wheeler that I had in front of the first shop. And Mike wanted that particular one to kind of learn from. So
We're talking Mike Rust.
Mike Rust.
Like
Yes.
legend in this
Oh, yeah.
community. Your first bike shop employee.
Most amazing individual.
Credited with literally helping to invent the mountain bike or take it to where it's at today. Okay.
Yeah. And so we traded. So the bike in front of the shop only was something that was in Mike's possession. Nothing had to do with anything that he produced. And I know you mentioned before we really started encouraging people to see Ryder and the Wolf and the story of this incredible human being in so many ways. I mentioned the environmental parties. Well, one of the things Mike used to do to make money, along with fixing bicycles and motorcycles and inventing things, was he made copper roses. And one of the last parties, Mike made 15 copper roses to give to each one of the presenters and wouldn't let me pay him for them. And he didn't have a lot of money. He was living off the grid down in Saguache. So it was touching and just another facet of the complexity of that man and his generosity.
So Mike Rust, there's a great movie about him called Ryder and the Wolf. It's all about his life. He was your first employee. He's the late great Mike Rust. He and his brothers are known for high wheeling all over, parades, rides all over. Just a really amazing character. But this brings me back to. You were one of the first. You have lent me so many different bicycle movies to watch over the years, and you really love like the bicycle. What are some of your other favorite movies? That's what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, and good question, because I focus on that so much. I guess I don't have a really good answer, because when I think of the subject, I go there.
Okay.
Some of the stuff in the early writing. And this is kind of a pretentious comment, but because of timing and place, I have had in the shop probably the two best writers of the modern era. I spent a full day with Eddie Merckx back in '86 prior to the World Championships due to just, again, a quirk number of connections. Then certainly the best road rider in the modern era by far. Koichi Nakano, the Japanese, won his 10th professional world sprint championship here in 1986. And 20 years later, it's funny, I got this call, young woman, accent, not quite sure what the accent is. She said, there's somebody that coming to town. Would like to visit your shop. And just out of the blue, I said, is it Nakano? And she just exploded, burst, and it was a freak of a guess. And so he came to the shop with Japanese television, and he came back to the site 20 years later of his 10th World Championship to visit the velodrome and the shop and do a mass bike ride in New York City. So amazing. I've been honored by these very special people, and gentlemen both. It's really great. So
that's amazing. Anything else, guys? Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show today, John. And it's so nice to meet you, Joe, as well.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching and listening to Pedal the Springs podcast. Pedal the Springs podcast is brought to you by the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort, the only bicycle-themed lodging and must-stay for cyclists coming to Colorado Springs. Check us out at Bicycle Resort for more information. Pedal the Springs podcast is produced by Studio 809, and it is recorded at the Nexus Studios, a professional cooperative environment for small businesses in downtown Colorado Springs. Be sure to listen to the show and check the show notes for anything that we mentioned. We'll find you there.